Hello executives， 那今天的单元想让大家听听看我们在 Premium Service 当中的顾问分享这个单元。那因为7月我们主攻内向者沟通术，所以也邀请了 Cinni， 那他是一位非常成功的创投，让他来跟我们聊聊身为一个 introvert 是如何在工作中也能够胜任这个沟通者的一个角色。Hello， 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管与沟通力的 Podcast。I'm Sherry, an educator, certified coach, and style enthusiast. 我相信专业有效的沟通是语言跟逻辑的完美结合。
And I'm Nick, a startup consultant, corporate trainer, and late-night gaming junkie. I believe great communication requires the right mindset and solid frameworks.
我们希望带给大家职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。
Join us each week as we share our experience, research, and methodologies to take your communication and language skills from good to great. Hey everybody, welcome back to a premium sharing session. This is July, and in July, we covered the ups and downs of being an introvert in a world that expects you to communicate like an extrovert. Now, today, we gathered some of the most prolific and articulate introverts we know, and one semi-introvert that she claims to be, just to share our stories. A lot of people expect you to be an extrovert, to get out on stage, be charming, gather. But some of the most effective people in business, in venture capital, etc., aren't that typical extrovert. So today, we just want to share our own stories. And to do that, we have brought a special guest, Miss Cinni, a good friend and close coworker previously of Andrew, who he brought her in to share all of her introvert stories while being a very successful venture capitalist.
Yay! We have a really beautiful girl with us today.
You talking about yourself?
另外没有。
另外, oh, okay, +1.
Fake introvert?
I'm so not an introvert.
No, you're definitely not an introvert. You're like 10% introvert, maybe.
Oh my God. I'm actually...
It's okay. You can fake it till you make it.
Right.
So we're going to let Andrew introduce Cinni for us today.
So as Nick mentioned, she's a co-worker. We worked together for how long? Like 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, in the venture capital
and then you
firm.
ditched me.
Well, it wasn't you that I ditched, but yeah, it was people sitting across from you. Actually, you abandoned us first. She moved like to another cubicle, like away from the rest of us, to be by herself.
Needed my introvert space.
Yeah, there you go. So, and except like our office was this like the strangest structure because it doesn't matter where you are in that massive space, you can always hear people on the other end talking. It's like the worst place to keep any secrets. So Cinni is definitely an introvert. Knowing her and being in venture capital, sometimes you need to talk. If you meet a really cool company, you need to tell the rest of the team. Our team was like 20, 30 people. With the admin team, it was like 30. So it's a pretty big room. And also when you go out to conferences, you also have to talk. And when you meet with startup teams, you need to ask them questions and tell them how you think. So knowing her, she's definitely an introvert. And yet she has no problem at all functioning in these, not like one of those extroverted, like inspirational speakers that you see, but very professional. So that's what got me interested. Inviting her on here is personally very interested what was your journey like as an introvert to go from, I said, because you study in Singapore and in the US, and Singapore, I would consider much more extroverted than, let's say, people in Taiwan, at least the Singaporeans that I've met. And US, oh my God, even more extroverted, right? It's like such an extrovert culture. Cinni went to Carnegie Mellon, which I think embraces the correct me if I'm wrong, embraces the geek culture a little bit more. There are a lot of technical people that go there.
For sure.
And yet I wonder if the culture there was still very extrovert dominated. And how did you overcome that? These are, sorry to throw out so many questions, but just really interested in the introvert journey.
Well, as an introvert, I'll need a lot more time to think it through. But, I mean, honestly, like when I was growing up, I remember I would always go back to Kaohsiung during Chinese New Year. And then my relatives, they would start speaking in Taiwanese, which I was never fluent in. I couldn't really understand. And I guess that kind of scenario situation, made it even harder for me to, speak up publicly or being very confident in it, because you're in an environment, supposedly you're like with your relatives, you're supposed to be relaxed. But then at the same time, I think it was actually quite difficult for me growing up, trying to fit in. And then when I went to Singapore, I guess a diverse culture actually helped me to open up a little bit more, because, my classmates, they're from Korea, and then they're from Japan and like Australia, and like there were a lot of expats in Singapore. And then I also went to international schools. So I guess like meeting different people at different stages and having them come from different cultures, I think like throughout that process, you sort of learn to interact with others. And then Carnegie Mellon, for me, I think the reason why I chose it is the kind of professors we have there is very like, I think a lot of the professors there are very passionate about what they enjoy. They really enjoy teaching. And then that's something that really inspired me as well through that process. And then like, I wouldn't say like everyone is like nerdy or geeky type. There are definitely a lot of extroverts there, but I know it's not like a school for everyone too. Generally, because I think there's a lot of like pressure in terms of the academic dedication that you need. So I think there's like a general good mix of different type of people there.
There was a lot to pick up. But for me, I'm just interested in like when was the moment you kind of realized like, holy crap, I'm introverted?
I guess like I've never really had that sort of, pivotal moment where I realized, oh, I'm an introvert. It's more of a gradual thing. I've always enjoyed reading when I was a kid. Like I would always go to the libraries and just spend the whole afternoon there. And then usually like even when I hang out with my friends, right, I would actually prefer like smaller groups, like 4 to 5 people is like sort of my comfort range. If it gets bigger to like 8 to 9, and I feel like it's a bit harder for me to connect to people on a one-to-one kind of level. And I think having that kind of genuine connection is really important to me. And then always like maybe after those social events, maybe it's like 2 hours or 3 hours into the dinner, I could feel that my energy level just depletes. And I know that it's pretty like clear that I'll need more alone time to recharge. Not necessarily because I thought like the conversation was not enjoyable or is not like exciting to meet people, or I think it just me personally needing like a balance between alone time and then social life as well.
不知道尼克有没有同样感觉？ 因为你也是从美国来台湾，但你在美国应该就
Nick 讲中文非常的 reserve.
That's not a reserved issue.
来讲一点给我们听。
Good luck on that. On one of the things that grabbed me about what Cinni said, which is, I think there's a lot of times that, introverts can get in front of a stage. They can be articulate, they can speak up, and no one may guess that side. But for me, the part that really indicates that I'm an introvert is, again, where you get your energy from. Some people pull their energy from that room. Like they can go into a room, and if they get a good response, then they just walk out like high. Like they're just excited. Zona would be one of those people who we all know. Like at the end of a training, if she felt connected, at the end of a speech, she feels like the audience was with her, then she just walks out and she has that drive. For me, it doesn't matter how well anything went in that room. I'm done. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to process anything. I'm sure my coworkers will attest to this. I get a bit cranky, like after we've been doing that all day, and I'm like, I gotta go away. I cannot be around people. And the result of what we did could be amazing. The response could have been really positive, but like, I'm just done. But part of that also, I think, comes from the type of interaction. So both, Andrew and Cinni talked about when you're, at least for me, I can have a really deep one-on-one conversation with someone and walk away feeling really good, connected, and not nearly as drained. But once you go a certain threshold of the number of people, like that situation is automatically saps my energy. Like as soon as there's more than like 3 people in that conversation, no matter how good it is, no matter how much I enjoyed it, I cannot sit there for hours and not walk away. Like I need to go sit in a corner and do nothing for a second.
So are we sapping your energy right now? There are 4 of us.
So we're under the threshold. We're at the 4. But once we go above that, it's just, I'd be curious for you guys if you have similar feelings, that it's more about like connecting with maybe one person or 2 people in a more intimate setting that feels less draining than the moment it goes above a certain threshold.
我刚刚讲到一个点是，我好像发觉为什么有一些 networking event， 有一些这种比较多人的 event 我还 OK。我觉得有一个关键的因素是，因为我有很熟的人在那边，可能有3、4撮。小撮不同的我很熟的人，为什么？因为我跟你们一样，我跟 Nick 也一样嘛。I don't like a like large group of strangers. I'm okay with small group of like good friends. So if these small groups of friends are there, like almost like safe islands, and then I can go into those small groups and recharge. I don't have to like worry about how a new person thinks about me. I don't have to worry about introducing myself, and then I'm okay. So I can recharge and go out, recharge and go out. I don't know if that resonates with you guys at all.
I think that makes a difference. So they're like your charging stations, right? Remote one.
Plug in.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold my cord for a second. All right.
Exactly.
那 Cinni 呢？你的
我会有自己的 rituals， 就是尤其是比如说我要去某一个 some sort of networking event or like where I have to present, like I'll go to the bathroom before the event and I'll tell myself like I can do this, like repeat until like I'm confident enough. So I sort of create like a sanctuary behind those bathroom doors, and then so when I'm ready, like I'll go out and then I'll meet people, and then whenever I need to recharge, I'll go back to the bathroom again.
Yes, bathroom is the best friend.
So we have different recharging stations. Andrew goes to find a familiar friend. Cinni and share like, where's the bathroom? There's a plug in.
I go to the bathroom too. When I don't have these friend islands, I gotta go to the bathroom as well.
Okay, so that's cool.
Yeah, I think Cinni brings up an interesting point, which is like, what rituals do people have? Because I think it is critical to put yourself in a comfort zone. But do you guys have any other rituals or things that you do either pre-event or at an event to make yourself feel more comfortable?
我在分享之前，我比较刚刚对那个 Cinni 的 ritual 还有点感興趣。Like, can you walk us through, like, so you go in there, like, how do you talk to yourself, and like, what do you think is the psychological effect? Like, maybe your mental state was one, and then you're trying to change it to another. Like, what is the change?
I think it's just like trying to calm yourself down, right? And then not being like too stressed out about it. And I guess like sometimes it's not like being too preoccupied about like how you present yourself. Like 可能有时候你会觉得说别人可能会怎么样想你，或你讲错话，或者是 whatever. But I mean, honestly, people don't pay that much attention to you. 所以有时候其实你不用想那么多或管那么多。然后 like my bathroom ritual, I just tell myself I can do this. 所以 like I think essentially you're trying to give confidence to yourself, like Like you've done enough prep, right? And then you've done what you can up to this point. So there's nothing more that you can do from this point onwards. So you might as well just enjoy it, right? Just go out there. So I think that's sort of like how I try to change my mental state from being like super nervous, like uncomfortable, and like I don't want to socialize to being able to talk to people, speak to people.
Actually, that brings up I'll follow up on that. Like when you're talking about that, was there a networking event that you're thinking about, or is it, for example, one of those events where you have to give a presentation? Because you mentioned that you prep, right? That's actually also really important. Like what is part of your preparation? Because I have like, for networking events, I have like no preparation. I suck at it. I don't know what to do. I just don't want to. My prep is like, let me research ways to not have to go.
You should teach me that.
Oh, I know, avoidance, chickening out. That's like a skill set.
But I guess it's like for both, right? Even for networking events, like it's a bit tough for me as well. But then, you know, being an investor, you can't just like, let all the other people do the speaking and not speak and present about your company, because like your purpose is to attract good deals for the company too, right? So like usually when I prep, I would try to think about what kind of people I might meet potentially, or it'll just have to be on the spot too, because you can't really sort of predetermine like who may be coming unless you know like the full guest list, and then you really run down on that guest list. But I guess sometimes you just have to like just being in that different sort of mental state helps.
I mean, here's where I would kind of flip the script and be curious as how you handle this. Is we've talked a lot about, okay, as an introvert, what happens like when we get requested to go somewhere, whether do a speech, training, etc. But there's a lot of cases in our jobs, and especially for you, Cinni, it's like you have to be the active pursuer, right? Like you have to start the conversation, you have to track down or be more active or aggressive in that. How do you handle that? Like when you're trying to approach, whether it's teams or events or, again, trying to promote what you do and find the best deals. Is there a mental switch where you're like, all right, I got to go after this? Or is there a different way that you approach this as opposed to like that extroverted, like go out and charm everyone on the floor and it's just like their personality? Do you have a different way that you approach this?
But I guess like everyone has different personality too, right? So the approach might be different, but like I won't try to pretend to be someone that I'm not, because like if I'm not an extrovert, like A type of person, and then you try to be that, I think people can pick up the like you're being fake or not being genuine and things like that. So I think I try to play introvert to my advantage to some extent. Because I love listening to people talk, right? That's obviously one of the strengths about being introvert. Like you listen, you pick up what they need, and then you could play your pitch or conversation geared towards what they may need. And then I think maybe for some of the extreme extrovert type of people, they're so in the game and in the moment that maybe they don't pick up as much of the subtle things that perhaps the startup founders they could have mentioned, or things that they really wanted, resources that they really wanted. And so I guess like you just have to figure out like what sort of conversation that you'll want to engage in, what sort of strengths you can play to, and then try to gear the talk towards that.
Do you have any examples? I mean, I would be really curious if you've noticed times where it's like, whether it's colleagues or other people in the room, they were more determined to hear, say like mainly like hear themselves talk as opposed to the founder or someone else talking, and you were able to pick up something and it really played to your advantage. Do you have any stories that come to mind?
这边我可以 jump in and buy her a little time when she's thinking, because
right, go for it.
I can actually, and these are like people that both she and I know. 因为 VC industry 有很多 VC 其实非常非常想要让大家知道他们多专业，然后他们对某个领域啊有多了解，所以你去这些活动的时候，你会碰到一些那种 startup， 然后他碰到一个比较资深的投资人，然后那个基本上就是在听那个投资人打嘴炮，所以那个投资人 it's like holding court, it's like let me tell you about like 然后结果 and at the end of it the startup founders didn't get to say anything. I've run into this situation multiple times. Because they're like venture capitalists, they read a lot. They read about like economic trends, they read about what's happening with like Russia and Ukraine and like China, Taiwan. So they have an opinion on everything. And so a lot of times, a lot of these like either roundtable dinners or networking events, they want to let people know that they know what's going on. Maybe because they were just talking to their own investors and they need to raise money, but it's almost like they can't turn off the switch. 然后有一些 startup 的那个 CEO 也是一样，你们应该也都碰过 Cinni 也碰过，就是那种他还在 sales mode， 然后他没办法 like he or she can't turn it off。
对，
然后就完全没有在听人家讲话。对，所以 Cinni 刚刚讲的那个 introvert 的一个 superpower， 确实这个是真的。就你比较会听。
我想到一个案子是其实法国的案子，然后它也算是就是蛮 deep tech， 然后半导体相关的。然后老实说其实因为它的领域是很 niche 的，然后我觉得也蛮 unique 的。然后我记得有一次我去 networking event， 然后他就在 present。那他其实是年纪有点大的老伯伯这样子，他就是已经有白头发，就看起来很像那个肯德基的那个老先生那样子。But he's like super nice， 然后他英文其实不是很好。然后我记得就是在那个 networking event 的时候，因为就是有几个 VC 吧，可能也是很想要投他们。But 就是他们就一直 blah blah blah， 就是一直在讲说他们的那个 VC 怎么样好什么等等的。然后结果最后就是那个 session 结束之后，因为我就有在听他讲嘛，然后就是有去了解说他的产品到底是怎么样，然后怎么样去 engage 这样子，然后说那也许我们可以帮他介绍，比如说台湾某某某谁谁谁的这个厂商，或者是怎么样的 business partner， 看他有没有兴趣。然后我觉得就是 there was that moment that he sort of like switched mode， 因为就是我觉得啦，其实有一些已经比较上了年纪，他可能想说你这个小妹妹你来乱闹什么 like 就是他可能觉得说你也不会帮他带来什么样的 resource 或带来什么样的 business。但是我发现就是他那一次之后，他就是第一个我们也变成他们的投资者，所以we did get that deal。 然后第二个部分就是我记得他好像有事没事的时候，其实他就会打电话问我说那你觉得就是你的想法是怎么样 like what do you think we can do much better。 所以我觉得有的时候其实你多听别人去讲，了解他们的需求，然后你是真的like genuinely interested， 然后想要帮助他们的时候，我觉得相对的 like people can feel it differently, right? Rather than like if you're like on the street， 然后你碰到就是有些人就是一直在讲说他们多厉害，可以帮助你什么，but then they don't actually do the real thing。 那我觉得就是其实大家的是可以感觉得到啦，就是说你有没有想要真心的去帮助他，或者是去建立什么样子的关系。 So I think that kind of makes a difference too。
I mean, I've only had the privilege of seeing you work a few times in person, but I did notice that you have a tendency to ask either very detailed or very deep questions. Like, again, you will listen to a speech and then I'll hear a lot of people ask like pretty surface questions, whether it's about business model, etc. But then usually when you pull the microphone, you get into these like very detailed technical, and I think to the point where even the founder's like, oh, okay, this person's serious. when you're thinking about, you can defend yourself in a second. But no, what I think that impresses me is, again, you have a tendency to have attention to detail. And that when you ask questions, it does show that you have processed what they have given you. So I would question is that just something that comes naturally to you? Is that kind of always how you have been? Or is it something that you have built over time as a way to, again, this is how I'm showing you that I've been listening or I've been connected with what you're talking about?
Well, I guess that could have been my way of avoiding talking to, I'll throw people questions, right? So they can talk more. But obviously, there's the part of me that I'm genuinely interested, and that's why I want to learn more about it. And that's why I'm asking those questions. But I think it's a practice that can be learned. I don't think I was particularly active in terms of asking questions. So I could definitely resonate when Sherry mentioned about the participation point. Because I remember there were a few classes that we had that too. But then I was like, oh, I want to get those participation points, so I should ask questions. So I think it could be practice and learned. And then I guess you just have to listen very actively and I guess generally want to learn about what people have to say.
I mean, do you have a process for you to ask questions? Because Andrew said that you have no problem grueling all these entrepreneurs.
那些真的很可怜，对，真的要问。
所以我真的很想知道你怎么问这些 tough question， 我很想学习。你有一些你特殊的一些模式？
可是我觉得这样子，其实我其实没有对他们很 nice， 就是因为我是真的想要知道真相是什么。所以我觉得我不会 ask a lot of easy questions。我就是想要get straight to the point 嘛，所以我才会问那些问题。然后可是我可以理解，就是有时候你讲的太直，或者是你问的太 direct 的时候，其实别人很难回答。所以有时候我会I try to soften the tone， 然后我可能会说，哦，你现在不用给我这个答案，但是我希望可以知道什么什么什么等等。那你回去再 research 或再怎么样也没有关系。对，可是对，因为我也不想要别人认为说啊，你都每次问这种很奇怪的问题，然后我不知道怎么回答，然后就是好像不给人家台阶下，好像这样也不行嘛，对啊。
So that's actually one defense for it's true for introverts is to just ask and figure out what kind of questions will get people to talk for a long time, so you don't have to talk. Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I'd be curious though and this isn't just directed at Cinni, other people can answer this, but do you find that the way that you ask questions is also partly job function, or do you find that either the depth or the detail of the way that you talk to, say, close friends or acquaintances mirrors that as well? Again, maybe a defensive mechanism to go, okay, you guys are going to talk a lot, so I'm going to ask something that potentially you have to give me detail on. Or is it just that's a job thing?
At least I've learned to separate them. And you kind of have to, right? There's social situation. No, and I'm sure that you guys have come across maybe people who don't know how to separate them. So even in personal situations, they're still asking questions that you're I don't want to get that personal right now. Or the tone of the question doesn't feel quite right. Because social situations is supposed to be really harmless, really harmless questions. So one example, I have this friend who's in education and we're really good college friends. And I went to graduate school and we met in New York once, and I went with a bunch of my classmates, and 3 of my classmates they're these really pretty South Asian girls, and my friend from college is South Asian. So I'm hey, meet each other. and my friend like talks to people about like life inspiration, what motivates them, what's the purpose of their life, and like and my friends are, by the way, not like ditzy. My graduate school friends, these 3 girls are definitely not your ditzy types. They study like diplomacy, international relations, and one of them is a top executive for Shell right now. But they were not in that mood, right? And you are in a bar and you're looking for a lighthearted conversation and social. And my friend's first question to them was, what is the purpose of your life? And I was like, no,
this has gone wrong.
Because he's an introvert as well. And in his job, he has these like one-on-one conversations with people and like, so it's about
that's
not
the first question that he'll ask, even
very first thing after name, like, oh, hi, Shaman, and this is my friend Moon, and Moon is like, so what inspires you? What is the purpose of your life? And my graduate school friends are like looking at me like, who the hell is this guy?
Who did you bring to the bar? What is happening?
To me, like introverts are really good at kind of getting that energy from the other person, kind of matching. Now, maybe not matching, but like getting that energy. Or is this person like high energy? Is this person low energy? I think it's kind of, we have that, it's a natural, it's somehow like we just know, it's instinct. We just know that, okay, this person is sort of here. And I kind of talked about that in my class, 就是你要去配合人家的 energy level。那当然，我觉得对于 introvert， 我们有的时候比较 chill 的一点 energy 的人，我们很难到那种 think about 像 cheerleader 好了。美国的 cheerleader 就是 super high energy level， 讲话很快 ，lots of facial expression， 然后 high fast pace。But 我觉得当然要 match 那样非常困难，但是通常我会去观察，就是这个人他大概在哪一边，然后我会尽量去 match 他。如果我今天很 high 好了，我喝了3杯咖啡 ，I'm super jittery but I'm really high。但是如果今天要讲话，这个人他是比较 chill 的人，他比较慢，那我就必须要 lower my energy level，配合这个人，我觉得会让你整个 conversation 会比较流畅、
顺畅一点。
Yeah，
这个我还蛮同意 Sherry 讲，因为其实我记得印象中这个应该是心理学的那种 mirroring 嘛，就是你会配合，不管是对方讲的速度，或者说甚至用词用词比较难一点点啦，but 就是如果假设你可以尽量，不管是从在速度、用词，在 tempo 上面，甚至你的动作再微微的一点做一些 mirroring 跟 matching 的话，其实你会，如果假设对方也有发现说你有在做这件事情的时候，好像 supposedly 那个 conversation 会比较流畅一点。
Yeah. I don't know about you guys. Have you ever actively, intentionally, or unintentionally tried that?
好像大部分的都是 unintentional 吧。而且通常是 unintentionally the wrong kind of energy.
What do you mean?
因为就连 introvert 也会有 high energy 的时候啊。尤其你看 Cinni 稍早不是讲说你在图书馆看书啊，你很喜欢可能就自己看书。我就想到说，对 introvert， 像我自己有时候我的 energy source 是自己一个人看书，然后看到很好，非常非常棒的东西，然后有一个新的想法。然后自己但是你如果从那边到一个 high energy 的 state 的状态，然后你又碰到一个 low energy 的人的话，就会有 mismatch。这其实也发生在那个我跟 Cinni 共事的时候也有发生啊。有啊，有时候我很嗨，有时候我很嗨，然后我到他的 cubicle 去，然后要问他什么东西，他讲说，那个是什么，然后你就可以看到转头看我，然后他会回答我的问题，可是他脸上写的就是 go away， 或者是你可以晚一点再回来吗？ 他整天都 low energy， 他可能在看那个 like the principle of bioengineering， 然后我跟他讲什么东西，然后 I'm sure it's not just me, it's some other colleagues of ours as well, like coming in really hot, like high energy. She's like,
this is why she moved cubicle. This is
yeah,
why
seriously.
I'm out. I gotta go.
Yeah, because there is no separation of energy. It's true. There's no separation of energy, right? And in an open office layout, that's actually a problem.
You know what?
That Cinni started stacking books on the top of her cubicle and just started
有好像有
office walls.
好像有it's true. And like not just the number of books, but also the size of the books. They became like college textbook size.
Encyclopedia just started.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, 我还记得看一个那个interview， 我好像是 Conan 在访问 Colbert。那他们就是 talk show 主持人嘛，那他就访问他说，因为通常你在做那种 live 节目，我相信每个人都知道，做完 live 节目的时候，尤其是他是主持人，他应该都会很嗨，他那个状态是在很嗨很嗨。然后 Coleman 就说，你有没有觉得说，你每次回家，其他人都无法 match 你的那个很嗨的那个 energy， 然后都不想鸟你。然后 Colbert 说没错。所以他最后他的一个很好的一个解决方法就是说，他从他的那个 show 的那个 office 到他的家要开车2个小时。他说在这2个小时他就可以把他的 energy level low down. So it's like the only way to correct that situation. Yeah.
Does that mean he's introverted as well, actually?
Yeah, we could.
Or it could be,
I wonder.
Like his family is introverted.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. His family's like, you don't bring this into this house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, work.
Yeah, if he doesn't want to sleep on the couch that night, then
exactly.
He better drive around with 2 hours before going home.
Yeah, because Conan was like, after my show, he's like, did you see that show? I interviewed such a big star. 然后他老婆就会说 take out the trash.
Real life is here, sir.
That brings an important, like, that brings up a question too, like when we were talking about rituals. And when you guys need to give presentations or go on panel discussions, for example, or give workshops, do your rituals, like, do they actually change your energy and energy level? Because for me, sometimes I need to listen to like 比较亢奋的音乐。
Yeah, I remember. 你在 workshop 的时候 you listen to Coldplay.
So yeah, this is in my July class as well. Yeah, I listened to a specific song, a specific concert of Coldplay because I just need to change my energy from other people will judge me. This idea that people are mean and to kind of a loving energy, the fact that everybody's friendly and there's one world, like, you know how Coldplay is like, oh, everybody loves everybody, like super happy. I just need to change myself into that mood so that I can go from being nervous to displaying warmth. So when you guys talk about energy, yeah, I think it has to do with that. So I don't know if your ritual, what you do, like, it's the same.
Yeah. I think I needed to walk around after every like big workshop that I do to kind of tone down and just get rid of that extra energy.
What about leading up to it though?
I think I'm like you. I do have to listen to some sort of music. I think music really helps me to get me in that mode. Yeah. I don't have any specific one. It changes every time. But I need like more like, that kind of music to kind of get me there. So yeah, I don't really have, I don't know. I'm curious. What about, like, I know, Cinni, you mentioned that like you do like these mantra, 你会跟自己讲话。你是在 Okay, I have to ask, 你是在厕所的镜子前面吗？
没有，当然是
In the stall.
In the stall.
In the stall 啊。但是我会小声的跟自己讲。
Okay.
So it's sort of like a affirmation kind of ritual. 对啊。
You're not like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a Hollywood movie style sitting in the mirror, like smacking yourself and splashing water.
No, definitely
okay.
not that type.
Far more demure version of
Do you use music?
Not as much really. 对啊，好像就是只有讲那个 affirmation 的而已。Yeah. And then I think I get too nervous. 所以我也不会特别好像把我的 like try to drive up my energy level like too much because I think I'll be super tense. And then I think I'll probably start talking too quickly, which isn't what you want during like a speech or a presentation. So like I don't think I do anything specifically to change my energy level, but it's more like just being comfortable in that setting. Yeah.
That's another big topic though. How do you get yourself comfortable?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like your friend island thing.
So
Yeah,
Nick,
but
you don't need that, right?
Nick hasn't shared that.
I operate on a different, I wouldn't say I change my energy. It's just, and this will be something I think is maybe more personal to me. I came to a realization a long time ago that being on stage, as much as I didn't like it, it never killed anybody. And so my entire thought process is the moment I get up there, as long as I have prepared to a reasonable amount, I am comfortable that I am good at what I do, that I just give the talk, and that there has yet to be a situation where things just like crash and burn and died to the point where I'm just like, oh, that was the worst thing in the world. And so it's just one of those things is like, whatever I think the worst possible outcome is almost like 0.00001% chance of ever happening. So you just get up there and you get it done. And then when you get off, you move on. So it's like, I don't really have, I guess my prep ritual is like, all right, let's get this over with. And the joke I always make at the beginning of trainings, because I know usually the people in the audience are also somewhat nervous, is like, no one has ever died in my workshop. Like we've all gotten through, people who've answered questions usually have something good to say and they've done well. And then that to me is a sign that this is going well. And so that's just what I carry into it. Be like, this is going to be fine. And then I get off stage and I don't want to talk to anybody. And that's it.
But would you say that doing a podcast is like a comfort zone or place for you though? Or do you think you still need to sort of prep leading up to the event?
Well, here's a secret. All the prep is done by the other girl. That's part of it. But actually it'd be more to me is like when I do the podcast with Sherry, when Andrew and I were running our podcast, or even when we did a different podcast with a group of friends, again, that goes back to an environment that I'm comfortable with. If we were like, let us film conversations in these parties, or be like a documentary filmmaker where like go and like follow, I couldn't do that. But to me is like the mindset in the podcast situation, like even now is this is a group of people that I enjoy sharing and listening to different experiences, different thought processes. And it's that conversation, it just happens to be recorded. Now, obviously, like there are certain ways that you conduct interviews, certain ways that you conduct conversations, whether to be more educational or to allow people to get something more specifically out of it. But for the most part, it's like, these are just conversations I would enjoy having. If you took us all off of camera, we sat down and had beer and just sort of talked about how we deal with our own nervous energy, etc. Like that would just be a fun thing to do. And I'd be totally okay with that. So that's sort of how I also look at the podcasting process, right? So it's like training or giving a speech is a bit different because I would not actively choose to go stand on a stage in front of 20 or 100 people. Like you have to pay me to do that, quite literally. But the reverse is like in a one-on-one coaching situation, in a podcast situation, or something like this, like all of you are just someone I would love to sit down and just talk to. And I would be completely okay with that. So for me, that's kind of how I separate out. It's not really the media form. It's just more like, would I want to have an deeper or more intimate conversation with this person? Yeah, I would. Okay, then that I enjoy doing.
我觉得做 podcast 有一个我一定会先跟自己讲，我比较会有那种 imposter syndrome，就是在准备的时候，我都会一直 question 自己 ，Do people really want to hear this? Did they care about this? 但是到最后我 recording 之前，我一定会跟自己讲说 ，If I can help one person, just one, then it's worth it. So I mean, I think Nick knows this. Like I have to tell myself this couple of times. 要不然的话，我觉得有的时候还是会有一点点，你会自己还会有点点 self doubt。Yeah，
所以这样听起来就是，go ahead.
No, go ahead.
那这样听起来就是，其实你们两个都有一个 common ground，就是那个 mentality 跟 mindset 的部分，就是因为你们都会觉得说，其实像你来讲，你可能就是想说，就是帮助人，然后对那个来讲，他就觉得说，我们就是只是 friends 在聊天，然后我也是很想要了解对方，所以他就不会觉得说，it's like a 就是很 practice 很 rehearse 然后很需要去 do it as a job kind of thing 对啊
Yeah, I think and I heard this somewhere and I can't really remember where I heard it from, but they said like a lot of people strive to have confidence in their ability, right? 你对你自己的能力很有自信，但是其实我觉得他在讲说有一点你应该要对你的 intention 要很有自信，这种的自信不会 fail. Like you will not lose that confidence in your intention. If my intention is very clear that I'm helping people, that I'm sharing information, then I can keep going. Yeah.
Actually, 那个是我有时候会感觉extrovert 跟functioning introverts 比较，因为有一些 non-functioning introvert 就是他其实有很多东西可以分享，但是他因为他太害怕或者他太紧张，他不去分享。然后有一些那种可能是 over functioning 还是 non-functioning extrovert， 就是他其实没有那么多东西可以分享，但是他还是一直分享。然后有时候你也会去 question 说他分享的，像 Sherry 讲那个 intention 非常的重要，那个 intention 到底是什么
？Yeah，
因为 as an introvert， 但有时候在 startup 还有 venture capital 这些，或者 as a consultant as well， 在这个 industry 你去某一些场合，你会觉得哇，大家都滔滔不绝的分享，我是不是应该也要分享？至少我注意到自己是，当我的 intention 没有很清楚，我的 intention 可能是错了，我的 intention 只是说我要刷存在感，我因为这样子去分享，那个结果通常都不好。So I need to be okay with not sharing because I don't have the right intention. And for me, the right intention is actually having value to contribute to a conversation. And when I get away from that, bad things happen. So yeah, going back to intention, that's a really, really good point. It's examining your intention. And if you don't have the intention of like providing value and being helpful, like stay quiet, that's fine.
So I think today we talked a lot and we really dug deep into
Wrapping
this
up
topic. Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, again, intention, we talked about prep work, we talked about energy level, we talked about do we have any rituals or our intention behind asking questions. And I think for introverts, 那我觉得这边所有的 introverts, 好啦，I don't know if I'm introvert or not. Maybe this will forever be a question. 我们都知道说，利用聆听的特质，其实才是比like it's so much better than pretending that we are extroverts. 所以我觉得这个是我们introvert 能够利用的一个特性，真的去聆听，去听人家，而且了解自己问这个问题的背后意义在哪里。Yeah.
The last question that I would actually ask is, we've sort of discussed a lot how we adapt to the situation and go out and talk to people. But in reverse is, what are things as introverts that we would like people to understand or to do going forward when talking to us or talking to other people that they would identify as introverts? Like, what actions, what intention, or what thought process would you like someone to have when coming to talk to you, especially if they are an extrovert? And in true introvert fashion, please think.
Okay. I have one.
Okay.
I have one.
This is what the edit button.
Of course, it's the
Of
fake
course.
introvert that goes
I
first.
have one.
I know. It's right there. All right, let's go.
All right, Hermione
Ambivert.
Granger.
Yeah.
Oh God. Be comfortable with silence. That's one. I think okay, fine. A lot of extroverts are really afraid of that silence in between a conversation. 我觉得都很想要去填空那个 you know, that silence. 觉得好像不能有任何的那种空档存在。我觉得try to be more comfortable with it. 那个是第一点啦，真的。其实我自己也常常得学习，或者是可能因为在教学，你会很怕那种 silence， 因为可能就是对方有没有问题啊，或者我是不是讲不够清楚。So I think it's actually be comfortable with that.
我觉得如果你去很刻意把它分成说每个人就是他是 introvert 或 extrovert, that's kind of labeling too. 所以我觉得好像也没有必要，因为有些人他可能被 label 之后，他就 maybe they'll become more introvert or maybe they'll become more extrovert, based on like the labeling or the self-fulfilling prophecy. 那我觉得有的时候其实就是大家往前一步，就比如说 as an introvert， 也许我们就是尝试的去也许是多发问题，或者是也许就是我多想一些 topic, like I try to lead a conversation rather than wait for someone to throw the ball at me. 那我觉得对比较 extrovert 的人来讲的话，他们也许如果假设我今天我退一步 like if I'm not afraid of that silence, and then I would listen more and probably process more before I answer things, then what would happen? Just try to be like willing to experiment with things. And I think that could be also interesting to observe too and see like I think conversation is like it could be like a tango, right? 就是有的时候 like someone needs to step in, someone needs to step out. And 所以你可能就是要找寻一个或者是尝试去 experiment 不同的 tempo 去试试看吧。
Well, that's hard to follow up on. Too profound. That's just the label.
It's also a tango.
So bring in the analogies, the metaphors. You gotta step up here, buddy.
I know. I don't know how to follow up now. I need a moment.
Okay,
I need people to understand that sometimes I just need to run away.
That's true.
And that's okay.
It's okay to.
It's okay.
We need a signal.
It's okay.
I need to go away, get away from here for a little bit. No offense to you.
Yeah.
Is that the baby crying?
Yeah.
That's it. Actually, the baby also needs to understand that the beauty of silence. That's
that you need to run away sometimes.
Yeah, and that sometimes mommy and daddy need a moment.
I think that it's something that I covered earlier, and I don't remember where the quote came from, but someone talked about this, which is that understanding that it's actually not that people don't want to talk to you or introverts don't want to have those conversations. It's the context or the setting makes a huge difference on how willing we are to open up to that conversation. Like you could ask the same questions, you could have the same line of conversation, but you put it from I'm in a room where there's 50 people around me, it's loud, I don't feel comfortable, versus like we're just sitting at a coffee shop and having that conversation. It could be the exact same questions, the exact same line of conversation, just the setting makes a difference, right? The comfort level or how you approach that makes a difference. So a lot of times with introverts, it's if you're not getting, say, the response that you expect or want, rather than either writing off that conversation or being like, yeah, this person just doesn't want to talk to me, consider changing the setting and see if that makes a difference, right? And I think that also matters a lot in a professional situation. You may not always have that flexibility, but when you're talking to a colleague, or let's say you're talking to a startup founder, the amount that they can articulate or how they can talk to you may drastically change if you just change the setting that they're in. And you may have a completely different impression. And if that person knows how to leverage their own strengths, then great. So just have that in mind.
All right.
All right. Well, shall we wrap up? Does anyone else have any last words of wisdom or advice?
Well, it's time to run away.
Yes. Now everyone can go find your circle of friends or your little, hideaway. Andrew, go get in a closet. That's as far as you can run away, I'm sure.
Thank you, Cinni.
No problem.
Yeah, it's all
Thank
good.
you all.
Thank you so much.
The Executive Plus podcast is a Presentality Group production, produced and hosted by Sherry Fang and Nick Howard. You can search us on Facebook, 主管英文 Executive Plus. You can also find us on Instagram, Communication R&D, and email us at sherry@epstyleplus.com.